Michael. Good morning, councillors, staff, and any visitors out there in cyberspace today. Welcome to our council meeting. Due to COVID-19 restrictions regarding gatherings and the need to comply with social distancing measures, all council meetings will be held by video conference until further notice. Residents will not be able to attend meetings in person. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be live streamed so that the public may view the proceedings of the meeting in time or later, and will be available after each meeting on council's website. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders past and present of the Bangarang nations. I'll now call for 3.1, apologies. There'll be no apologies today. We'll keep moving. 3.2, applications for leave of absence. Same thing, no applications. So item number 4.1, confirmation of minutes of ordinary meeting held on the 23rd of June 2020. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Item 4.2, a confirmation of minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 29th of June 2020. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please?
Wales.
Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Councillor Thomas, was that okay with you? Second, no, I wasn't sure.
I can't because I wasn't at that meeting.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't there for the full time. Yeah, so maybe I can't.
Sorry.
I'm not really sure.
I can.
That's fine. Councillor Longley,
Yep.
all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Disclosures of interest and declarations received by the chair to be noted.
Haven't received any, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 6 is the mayoral minute. 6.1 were citizenship ceremonies conducted in July 2020. It was a pleasure to conduct a number of ceremonies for Leslie Croft, Sylvia Rowe, Darren Peck, and John Comito on the 13th to 14th of July. Some were carried out by live stream and some in person here at the council chamber. So that was a good day and some new citizens for Australia. So there's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that, please? Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor
Law.
Kennedy.
Law.
Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Law. Councillor Wales, did you have a question there?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I was speaking to one of the new ones, Mr. John Caminito, and he's so very pleased to have been the job done on him. He's glad to be an Australian, so thank you. Well done.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Wales. If there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, 6.2, we have council resolution of local government exclusion from National Cabinet. So we'll deal with the recommendation shortly, councillors, but council's sending a letter off to the Premier and Honourable Susan Ley and Justin Clancy, respectively, to try and highlight the fact that we feel that local government should be a good partner at the table for that National Cabinet. Very importantly, we're dealing with all state and federal appointments on an ongoing basis, particularly now through the COVID. So we think as local government, we have a lot to offer the Cabinet, and therefore think we would like to have a seat at the table. So we'll deal with that one very shortly. And the last one I have, which is not noted here, I'd just like to make a note that we have been corresponding with the Fisher family, particularly Judy Fisher. The ceremony will go ahead on the 22nd of August. And it also looks like at this stage, the Governor has accepted our invitation and will be also there for those festivities. So thank you. That completes the mayoral minute.
Might just, Mr Mayor, add, I think, well, Councillor Thomas wanted to comment on the recommendation for the local government national cabinet.
Oh, you're welcome.
Matter.
Councillor Thomas, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Really happy to move the recommendation that we look at writing those really significant letters. I just think it really needs to be highlighted that when we had COAG really made some really foundational policy and procedure amendments and also decisions. So I think as we move forward, the National Cabinet will become an integral part of some really strong intergovernmental decisions. So therefore having a seat at the table is very important. So I absolutely endorse what you're looking at today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas, and thank you for moving that recommendation. Can I have a second for that, please? Not for that, for the mayoral recommender that council note the ceremonies and the mayoral minute.
No, we've got that one.
We've got that one
So
already.
this, if you do the second one
All right,
first.
we'll move on to 6.2 then,
Yeah.
and the recommendations there, and that's been moved by Councillor Thomas and seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments? Nothing further. I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. Thank you.
Just to give clarity on that other one, I think we will make a separate note on your announcement about the Fisher, Tim Fisher Memorial Statue. So just for councillors to be fully aware, and for the record, for the mayoral minute, there was a drought-funded extension program where sculptor Andrew Whitehead was given funding and has come up with, from media reports, a sensational statue honouring Tim Fisher. So the anniversary of Tim's passing is the 22nd of August.
Yes.
So that weekend had been highlighted by Judy, his partner, and family as being obviously a very special, significant date. And in Tim's true fashion, he was always very much on that side of things, but respecting the fact, with aware of that and how we manage that, of which the family and the mayor's been working with them on that. Our staff are working really hard on that process as to how that will unveil. So it's a bit of a watch this space in terms of how we would manage that event. And yeah, the Governor of New South Wales had made contact with the mayor previously, unrelated, but now is aware of this event and has indicated a desire to attend that. So we need to be making sure that we can have that event and ensure with COVID. And in ordinary times, you'd imagine that event would attract hundreds of people, as did the ceremony we had out there, thankfully, when Tim was still alive, to rename that park and the train ride, etc., that coincided with that. So very different circumstances, but Judy especially was really keen, and the family, to see that if it was to occur, there'd be no better time on that weekend. So it's a matter of how we then do that with live stream and other virtual abilities. I'm sure that our staff and other support we can get through government will be able to make that happen, but it'll just be a case of it may not be a crowd or at all. So
Yes. No, thank you, Mr. Butler. And would someone like to move to note that addition to that report mayoral minute, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments there, councillors, on any of those comments? If not, I shall put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, carried. We'll move now on to item number 7, the General Manager's report.
thanks, Mr Mayor. 7.1, councillors, is a report tabling the interim report from the Legislative Assembly Committee from New South Wales State Government regarding drought support for affected communities in New South Wales. The report's quite detailed, quite lengthy, and I think quite significant, and there's just a summary here within this paper of the key recommendations and findings. Recommendation to note that report, send a letter of thanks to Justin Clancy, our local member for Albury's, chaired that committee, and it was quite significant. Our council made a submission through our manager, community and economic development, on some of those key things, and sent a letter also to Cora Landcare and Riverend Plains and other members of our drought resilience committee, just to keep them aware of where those things are up to. Droughts don't go away in our country, so it's making sure we continue and really, there's a final report, I'm told, is due around the end of the year. So for councillors notation here and comment, and I think Mr Mayor, Councillor Thomas had a comment on here, at least, probably others as well.
Thank you. Well, can I get a mover for that recommendation, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor
So moved.
Whitehead. Comments, please. Councillor Thomas.
Looking at the recommendation, I just wondered whether before that final report came out in December, if we could reconvene our advisory committee, just to give them opportunity to give feedback so we're all on the same page. You know, in terms of, we've discussed in the past about our funding that did come through for round 1 and 2 and our lessons learnt. So whether we could possibly upload those lessons learnt from re-engaging this committee through this process. If there's comment on that, that would be great. And then I also have something else I'd like to mention as well.
That's
Sure.
fine, Councillor Thomas.
Sure, yeah. On point 3 there, I think that would be, and we'll talk with Jared, our manager, on that one through Joe, and I'm sure that'd be a good move to get the committee to get across that report if they haven't already and make some comments. Yep.
And just the other point of call, if I could, was just to alert that the federal government have also announced their Future Drought Fund, which is consists of $5 billion. And they have some really key programs. And one of those key programs that I'm really quite excited about, and I would like to explore that option with maybe some of our really key stakeholders that we had in Federation Council, is the Federation would like to, explore this option of being, hopefully, one of the 2 drought resilient adoption and innovation hubs. They would like to place 2 of these in regional Australia, and how exciting if Federation Council could look and co-stakeholder with some of our Riverine Plains, Coral Landcare, West Karugan of the likes to actually look at becoming one of these innovation and adoption hubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Very exciting. Any further questions or comments there, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thanks. 7.2, councillors, is local government remuneration review of fees paid to mayor and councillors outcome. So recommendation there is to note that the outcome and that there's no increase to fees paid to councillors and the mayor for 2021. So this council, along with various others, have been lobbying for changes not only to the categories to allow a category of our size to be more better reflected, also for a general increase, which has been through conference as well, local government conference, seems to continually fall on deaf ears with the state government, or certainly with that tribunal, about trying to seek a better compensation for councillors' time. So that's a report there just noting that they've made that decision, that there's been some changes to some categories. They've seemed to have created a new category, regional strategic area, metropolitan, regional strategic area, creating some different categories for councils up around that 50, 60,000 sort of population, but there's no sort of area under 20,000, above 10,000 to reflect those size councils of any sort of great note. So it's there for information.
Thank you, councillors. Can I have someone move that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments there, councillors? If not, I shall put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
7.3, report on the upcoming Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference to be held 22nd, 24 November 2020. So recommendation there to note that and to authorise the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and the GM to attend. The Mayor and Deputy Mayor be Council's voting delegates, and to finalise any motions for consideration at the conference at the August Council meeting. Councillors did talk about sending an additional councillor, so it might be worthwhile to include that in this recommendation to allow the early bird advantage of booking tickets, etc. So I'm happy to have an inclusion there if council wanted to on that recommendation.
Thank you. I'll get a mover for that, councillors. Moved by Councillor Whitehead and seconded by Councillor
Wales.
Councillor Wales. Questions or comments, councillors?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I could.
Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, just coming off the back of what the General Manager mentioned there, I did source or query some of our past councillors, and I believe that, yeah, there were an additional councillor did go to the conference back in the day, and I believe even in our term we've taken an additional councillor. I did also think that in light of our recycling ventures that we're looking down the line of, that a councillor would be on that committee as well, and I think that conference coincides the day after the annual conference at the same venue. So if there was an additional councillor going, it might be a point to maybe considering the same person that's in the recycling one, which I think is Councillor Longley.
Any further comments here, councillors, in relation to
Yeah, I
Councillor
fully
Wales?
support what Councillor Whitechurch says, because in the previous, another council did go, and it's a good experience for them when they're to go to these things. So it'd be a good idea if we have an additional councillor go.
I might just ask Councillor Longley, if he didn't mind. Councillor Longley, I don't believe you've been to a conference before. Would that be correct? Correct. And Councillor Longley, did you intend participate for him?
Yes.
You did. Would it be a consideration for both, Councillor Longley?
Yes.
So there, councillors, that would fit in. Was there any other intent of any other councillors there before we add another point to that recommendation? Any other comments? So we have that recommendation there. If the mover and seconder are happy with it, we'll add 0.5.
Or in point 2, maybe Rochelle could amend point 2 to add Councillor Longley after the Deputy Mayor.
Yes. Mover and seconder happy with that?
Happy with that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Whitechurch? Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
7 is our community satisfaction survey, almost ready to launch. So that's a 2-yearly survey. Council did one just after the merger, which was funded by the state government. And this one is in our every second year plan and budget to base off that data and to continue survey our communities on their thoughts. There's been a lot of work going to the alignment of those questions around our community strategic plan, our financial sustainability, our projects and other priorities, looking at what came back of our last and our only feedback as a new council. So it'll be really exciting to get out there to the communities and understand. So there's a recommendation there. This has come through our Manager of Communication and Engagement, Alana Greenwood. So there's a recommendation to note the report and to receive a further report on completion.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that, please, councillors?
So moved. So moved with a question.
Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch, and a question by Councillor Thomas.
Yes. I just found it really interesting as the 4 identified long-term strategic works that form the basis of the community survey, because they're very much key drivers as council moves forward and into the future, especially around sustainability. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the survey results, and I'm quite interested about the uptake of how those survey results and the delivery of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any further questions or comments here, councillors? Okay, if not, I'll put it then. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
7.5 is an update report on the tourism industry support digital marketing campaign with Love From Us. So developed within our tourism team and our comms and engagement team, a really exciting online initiative to continue to support our tourism operators and our economy and more broadly in light of this COVID shutdown that we're all in the middle of, and their businesses suffering enormously. So it's just a recommendation there just to note the report on the tourism industry support digital marketing campaign that's currently underway and highlighted across our digital channels. It's been some really good feedback from return visitors who aren't able to come now, but have really appreciated, as have our operators, a chance to showcase our area when they can return again. So.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. With Love From Us, could I have a mover, please, councillors?
Happy to move.
Moved by councillor Whitechurch, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments there, councillors?
I have a comment.
Comments?
I thought it was very appropriate and the timing was spot on. As my fellow councillors, I'm sure you received a lot of correspondence in the last 10 days about the pandemic and how it was looking for our community. And to absolutely be able to give a reply email with that beautiful, beautiful with love from us graphics was actually quite heartwarming. And I would like to think that the receivers of our correspondence over the last 10 days were getting that little virtual hug from Federation Council. So thank you to those staff who have pulled this together. It was delightful. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Thomas. Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just note when the campaign kicked off, it was probably a little bit slow and people weren't aware of it. But for those that aren't on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, the momentum's picked up pretty quick, and it's a result of other people seeing other businesses on there. At the same time as the launch of Mulwala Ski Club, a lot of their staff stood out with a big "We Miss You Victoria" sign with the lake in the background at the front of the ski club. And on the back of that, our digital marketing campaign. Since then, we've seen Helen Golf Club put in, Cora Caravan Park, obviously Mulwala. So people are starting to get a hold of it. But the interesting thing is the people that are viewing it, and I'll be interested to see what Alana's figures report, because the people who specific to the Mulwala Ski Club say are also then seeing all the other businesses that are putting theirs forward. So it's getting far and wide, and I think it's a great initiative and it was well thought out. So I think it'll be good for us.
Thank you, councillor Whitechurch. Any further comments there, councillors? I'd totally have to agree with those both those comments, and congratulations to the staff that are involved in that. It's been very successful. So, all in favour?
Right.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
7.6 Cora Pool project. So a project update and confirmation around the official naming of the renewed facility. So just out our front doors there, amazing transformation's been happening, which I know councillors and others are going to have a tour through there this afternoon as it's really starting to take shape. And so, yeah, just an update report on that, where it's up to, but specifically seeking the council direction and view on the naming of the facility. There's been some, obviously the old building was called Cora Swimming Pool. The new plans that went out were called the Cora Aquatic Centre, and the builder's now really keen to make sure we didn't run a separate process community-wide on the official naming. I think the community are more involved in what facility would be delivered there, around the 50 and the heated and all those sort of things. So now it's been a great success, I think, and a win-win for the community and regionally to get the facility that we are going to be enjoying. So really just to confirm now, so the builders can get ahead with ordering signage and things like that, confirm that final name. So the report's there to note, the recommendation, sorry, is to note the report, endorse the operational model for the facility. So councillors have also been through a workshop on the direction staff were seeking, and council endorsed that we do have the staffing model in place for that facility. And point 3 would be to consult with the Swimming Pool Advisory Committee prior to the meeting, which I understand has been correspondence back and forwards, but to work through a final name to allow that contractor to continue on those plans. And there has been some work done within our teams around our branding to ensure that colours and the presentation of the building fits in with our corporate branding and our way forward. So consideration there of a way forward for council. There's a number of different names thrown around there. The councillors have had a brief workshop on this matter, saying to be looking for the Cora on the plans. But yeah, making sure we just covered off with that Pool Advisory Committee as well. And I think the public broadly are just wanting us to get on with it and get it opened. So
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Can I have the mover for that recommendation, please, councillors?
So moved.
Moved by councillor Meagle, seconded by councillor Whitechurch, was it? We're open for questions or comments now, councillors.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Who would
may.
like to start? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it is an exciting project, probably one of the most exciting projects that many of us councillors will be involved with in our term on council. And I would like to propose or put forward for discussion the Corowa Swim Centre as the name, and so we can get the signage up and keep moving on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Surely there's some more bursting comments there, councillors. Councillor Longmire, I can see your face.
Yeah, I think the consultation part of the recommendation is important. I think that's got to apply because there'll be people with different ideas. It's already around the council that there are different ideas. So I believe that the consultation is beneficial. And once that comes in, and I'd ask the question of Mr. General Manager, when is the decision timeline got to be made?
Thanks, Councillor Longmire. I think it's also probably important to add that councillors have discussed quite appropriately, I think, going forward, regardless of the overall name, some options within the pool itself to name either certain pools or certain parts after well-known former people involved in the pool, especially on voluntary capacity. So I think that process going forward will be quite exciting. But as far as this overall name, I'm told, you know, we could refer that through, and as long as we have a decision at the August council meeting, we could be in good shape.
Comment. I'll quote Councillor Meagle. He reckoned, he said that this swimming, the pool project rather than a community significant project, and that's why I'd like to see it called Federation mentioned in there somewhere. Maybe Federation Aquatic Centre with the name Corowa underneath, but to reflect the broader community of Federation Council. Don't forget, the majority of people in Federation live outside of Corowa.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. I'm sorry, Councillor Longley. And Councillor Thomas, I can see you waving your hand.
I just would like to add further to those comments, really valid comments, but kind of along the lines of my fellow councillor Longley, I think the word regional possibly needs to be in there as well, considering that, you know, when we first embarked on this really significant project, we were looking at the caption area or the area that would actually use this facility. So if you want to encompass that, you probably really do need to use the word regional in your new signage for this particular precinct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I suppose I can just have a little one just for in the spirit of debate would be Corowa Regional Aquatic Centre. Or is it too long? We've got Corowa Swim Centre there as well. I mean, I just said in the spirit of debate. Any further comments there, councillors, please?
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I guess we could go around the table for a long time and ask a lot of different people and get a lot of different answers. But at the end of the day, when we went down to whatever the old pool was called, whether it was the Corowa Memorial Swimming Pool or whatever, you went to the pool. That was what it was. It was the pool. But it's going to be abbreviated. You can make as long a name as you like and put Federation and Regional and all those things in it. But at the end of the day, what is it? And I think it's an aquatic centre because it's more than just pools. And we've left ground specifically down the left-hand side for additional things that come to light in the future, if need be. Like there was talk early in the days by the Swimming Pool Committee of rock walls and climbing walls and treetop swings and that sort of thing. I mean, by limiting to just a pool or an aquatic, you know, it might be more than that in 5-10 years' time. So, but I don't think there's a need to put regional, federation or any of those things in just for the sake of it. At the end of the day, it's the aquatic centre, it's in Corowa. If you wanted to Google it, try Googling the Regional Federation Memorial Swimming Pool. You wouldn't do that. You'd Google aquatic centre Corowa.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Whitchurch. I think that is one of the important points about it is that Corowa, as Alana pointed out to us in the workshop, triggers a lot of Instagram, you know, all these technical search engines that are out there. So, and it's in Corowa, so I believe Corowa's got to be in the name the rest is up to council law.
I believe that you've got to think about the size of the sign. It's not going to be 15 miles long. And if you're going to have all of those things in it, you're not going to be able to read it from any distance. We've got to use the KISS factor in this. Keep it simple.
Okay, I'm happy with Coral Aquatic Centre then. That's fine. Thank you, Councillor Law.
Mr Mayor, there are 26 letters in the alphabet. Surely we can put some.
Any further discussion there, councillors?
What I might suggest, Mr Mayor, is that we would put just a minor amendment, but very important, would be in point 3, that council consult with the Swimming Pool Advisory Committee prior to the August council meeting. Just add August in there, maybe Councillor Meagle as a mover and Whitechurch as a seconder, and that would let us get the time to go back to that committee who have done a sensational job. There's experts on there, there's swimming pool people, community people and councillors and staff. So if we could do that and get back to August, I think we'd be going right.
Yeah, very important. Happy with that, councillors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we've probably had enough debate, so I'll put it all in favour.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, if I could, just sorry.
Councillor Whitechurch?
Yeah, I was just going to say that should maybe to not draw this out any further, I think as Councillor Meagle brought up, or maybe Councillor Longmire, in light of there being the opportunity to name the other pools after some influential people in that area, should that be a suggestion to put to the Pool Advisory Committee in confidence at the moment and get their feedback on those so that we can launch the whole namings together?
I'll just pass that one over to the General Manager. I'm not sure whether it needs to be part of their recommendation, but I think we're pretty much all pretty keen to see that happen. So what would you think about that?
Yeah, we'll look into that one. The only problem with elements within that, when they're named after people, the Geographical Names Board quite particular about naming things about people, whether they are still alive or not, and protocols around that. So I know it's probably a level down. It's like naming, what Councillor Longmire said, certain ends of football grounds after. So it's probably something that would work and wouldn't need the official name that you would see on Google Maps and everywhere else. As the one we're talking about would be one we'd imagine we'd see on the maps and everything. So I think we'll raise that with them, and we'll just keep it out of this recommendation though, but certainly make that known that you'd be looking to do elements within it. Yeah, and throw those names in that people may have in mind.
Yeah, happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all, councillors?
So Rochelle can add August on that final one.
Yeah, happy with that. Okay, I did put it, didn't I? All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
Uh, 7.7 is an update report on a couple of our major strategic plans we've had out on exhibition. So Ballpark Caravan Park draft master plan, as well as the Cora Foreshore and Morris Park draft structure plan. So they've been out on public exhibition. So this doesn't capture all the submissions in detail. It's just a quick update of where that process got to, particularly around our heavy online engagement. Again, with COVID, we haven't been able to have our face-to-face hall type meetings, but another sign of the importance of our digital engagement. And Alana, again, our managers, put some really good detail in this report about the reach of those two significant projects. We're really excited about the feedback and some opportunity now to consider that properly with councillors, and next steps are written out there as well. So the recommendation there is simply to note those reports and receive a further report on both those as we work through Crown Lands and other agency consultation to better shape both those big projects.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Councillor Meagle and seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments there, councillors?
Quick comment, if I may, please, Mr Mayor.
Absolutely, Mr. Councillor Meagle.
I'd just like to congratulate the communications team for the engagement in this. I think it's something that council has always done, is put things out on public display, and everybody's been able to come and go and look at it as they see. And this was a little bit of a challenge due to COVID to conduct this via a different platform, and the fear was that people wouldn't engage and wouldn't be considered that they'd had the opportunity to comment on it. So it's very pleasing to see the amount of engagement that has occurred, and I congratulate them on a team. And it just shows what can be done via a different platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, I think there's an enormous amount of excitement and vision that's been put into this master plan, but it may be a good time going forward to think that it has to be paid for, and some opportunities for the different clubs that are involved in this master plan. It might be a good time for, as happened many, many years ago with the swimming pool committee way back in 1956, where they had vision and got together to raise money themselves to support the opportunity. And I think this could be something that the different clubs right throughout this entity have a look at some of those sort of things, and they might want to constitute an opportunity to raise funds of their own to support the development in the future.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Longmire. Any further comments here, Councillor? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
7.8, Mr Mayor, is a letter from some interested people, including some Cora Chamber of Commerce reps, on seeking establishment or council's views on establishment of a Cora Waganya Tourism Committee. So there's a letter there in the attachments. We've had a number of meetings with the group. They're really keen, particularly in the recent climates with bushfire smoke and close down of things because of COVID, to see what they can do to activate and continue to be supportive of tourism. And there's operators and other interested people within this. So the letter is detailed in the attachments. This report's not seeking to endorse or operate or adopt any of those suggestions, but I think it was really key that the group put forward their ideas and aspirations around how they'd see that group working. So this report just seeks the council note the report and to support in principle establishing a group subject to receiving a further report once we do further discussions. Obviously seeking the views and approval of Indigo Shire if Waganya is to be included, and receive a further report on the matter at the next available council meeting. And I note that councillors have a workshop this afternoon on where we're up to with our really exciting council-wide strategic project on tourism, which is our tourism brand and our strategy and marketing that comes off all of that. So making sure we can keep alignment within that process. So yeah, this is the recommendation for consideration.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Meagle.
Yep.
Thank you. Comment, Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think it's an opportunity to let those people that have formed this group to express where they want to go and what they want to do, and we're only obviously in principle supporting the group, but I like the idea of incorporating Indigo Shire or Waganya. We've seen the pain that the cross-border towns are feeling, and really Waganya's the distant cousin when it comes to the outskirts of the Indigo Shire, and they're more our close brother or sister than say the Beechworths or anything like that. So if they can incorporate something there, and they're working for a passion to make the betterment of the town and the area, I've got no problem in supporting it, and where it goes is entirely up to how much we support and how much effort they put into it. So I think it might be a good thing to look into.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. Any further comments?
Yes,
there,
Mr Mayor,
Councillor?
if I may.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle.
I'm happy to support the recommendation, and I would like to think that the discussions with the group will be centred around our council-wide marketing brand and strategy that we developed. I don't think it's necessary that we form groups for the sake of it, but as long as they're willing to incorporate in what council has already established, and so that we can have a unified approach to this, I think is going to be beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle.
Mr Mayor, can I make a comment?
Councillor Longley.
Got a different opinion. There's a recommendation for them to form a 355 committee, which I think is a great idea. And I'm in favour of them giving a kickstart to see what they can do in tourism for their own local community. I mean, if they're going to own the tourism group, and with ownership, if we give them some money to kick them away, that's their responsibility. The harder they work, the better than benefit. I mean, from a council point of view, it's an overall plan that we're developing, but they're looking at a localised plan for their community. I agree with that.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. Councillor Longmire.
I actually, in principle, which is a word that can get used pretty sparingly or awkwardly, but in principle, the idea sounds okay. But further to the approval and the general excitement of our new tourism brand, and the word's been mentioned many times by other councillors, in effect it's regional. So it's not just Corowa or Waganya, it's the advocacy from Mulwala to Urana to Howlong and all in between. So I believe the group, whilst in context they're looking to do of a benefit, I think if they can come on board with the development, that is what, and the only thing I will support.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. Any further comments here, councillors? Councillor Law.
I'd like to see this group support our own tourism group, who I'm sure could do with more arms and legs to help them around. I don't see a point in just having a Corowa one. We're a regional area. We're a federation council. And I might say that I don't approve of us subsidising the Yarramull tourism group either. If we're going to start supporting subsidising all these groups, it's going to cost us some money. It's got to fit in with the budget, but I would prefer to see them support our own tourism group.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Any further comments here, councillors? I might just have a bit of a closing comment there, councillors. Yeah, thought about this a fair bit, and great to see the enthusiasm coming from a local community group. And I think it's always good if the locals can have some ownership in their future, and as much as that is possible to encourage. I think as Federation Council, our staff are doing a fantastic job on our logos and branding, and they'll continue to do that. It's a massive job. It's a big shire, and there's a lot of communities within that shire. So I also think it would be beneficial. These groups are already in some communities there that are promoting their own communities, and I'm happy to see a Corowa group or community come forward and try and enhance their own economy, their own, whether it be their own businesses or community. I'm pretty excited about that, and I don't think I feel that there's a need. We have the overarching Federation Council tourism, would imagine perimeters for all communities within the shire, but I think it's also good to have these branches coming off to help the big picture. So yeah, I'm in favour, and would like to encourage it. So thank you. If there's
wrap up some of that as well with the overall shire-wide sort of ability or current groups and structures in place. So obviously down at Yarra Mulwala, we've got the Mulwala Progress Association that do a range of different activities, but they're incorporated. They're standalone outside of council, but work well with council. And we have YMT, Yarramull Tourism. Again, council puts some money towards them, and Moira Shire even much more heavily, because they do run the visitor centre for Yarra, and Mulwala benefits off that. So there's some groups down that way, all up through most of the northern areas, because they were pretty strong in their 355 committees as town progress groups across Borey Creek, Miranda, Urana, Oaklands, Rand. The other communities down through the area. Savanac Hall's probably an example. There's committees within there that have a good focus on their own smaller communities. How long I know looking to move towards some sort of an overarching group down the track of an economic development sort of focus. Cora's got a lot of strong service groups and sporting groups, being a bigger town. Doesn't seem to have an overarching group that's aligned in and around council as much. We've had with these representatives fully aware they're not self-nominating or becoming a group on their own, and they just had the discussions with council about whether they did that. You've got to have some sort of interim steering committee of members to try and get get any movement going forward, but they'd be aware there'd be a process if council supported it down the track of a 355 of how that might play out. And yeah, I'm a fan of 355 committees. Not everyone is. I know they take some governance and work and etc. But the benefits they can repay by having that connectivity through council, I think repays any of the workload. And we, as a council, have got a lot to do to fix up our 355s from an internal perspective to continue to make sure we can help them through the paperwork side of things. I'll put that pretty bluntly. But I think if we can move forward on that and fully respect our overall tourism brand. And there's a big focus now on, and Kyla and others are much more experienced and experts in tourism, but there seems to be a big focus on tourism by town and by place. And you still got to have an overarching brand, but we're seeing ads all over the place about destinations within. And I think I agree with our strategy if we've gone for a brand that covers the whole area. But somehow within that, each place needs to find their place. And I think that's what this group's trying to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Mr. General Manager. If there's no further comment there, councillors, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
Ramjo water paper 7.9 is a really significant strategic piece of work undertaken by our joint organisation, Ramjo. And this has been done largely through our terrific staff in there at Ramjo, as well as strong support, particularly the Mayor of Murray, Shire Council, Chris Bilkey, who's the chair of this subcommittee, as well as a lot of other mayors and GMs and staff that have helped that group. But certainly it's been a significant piece of work where they've taken a region-wide approach to putting some solutions and offering a more positive spin on water management. So this is formalising that document in terms of our position to say that the council does note that document and send a letter of thanks to those involved most heavily and continue to engage on this document going forward. It's a live document. We've already had some really significant engagement in the early days across MDBA and with local and federal politicians, and we've got more going forward as well with our Minister for Water, Melinda Pavey, as well as Justin, our local member. So yeah, for discussion and notation.
Thank you. I've got to move it. Thanks, Councillor. I'm sorry. I've got to move it there, Councillor Longmire, and seconded by Councillor Thomas. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Yes, comment, please.
Sorry about that. Anyway, this is a question without notice for our General Manager, Mr. Butler. Some months ago, we were asked to come up with a local, as in Federation Council local stakeholder engagement list for this particular Ramjo water position paper. I was just wondering, was there progression on engaging those stakeholders within our own council area? Thank you.
Thanks. I'll take that on notice. We did forward the details of our known user groups and irrigation groups, etc., to Ramjo. So I'll just see where they got to around that. I went to some of their engagement meetings with the much bigger corporations like Murray and Murrumbidgee Irrigations and Southern Irrigators and all those sort of ones. So I'll just check more locally and come back to you if I can. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, it's anybody that's had time and to be able to have a good look at this paper, it is very, very well done. The other one that comes to mind is the Murray-Darling Association report, also on the future of water. That's another paper or a report that if we can blend it together, I'm not smart enough to be able to dissect it, but I really believe there's a lot of things in both reports that are valuable. And certainly in the local area, the Karugan irrigation people, there may be a chance going forward where we're able to have a discussion with those people as well.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. Yeah, so I'll just make a comment. I'd like to congratulate and thank our own General Manager who did put a hell of a lot of work into this water paper, involved in that committee, and also the driving force of Bridget Leopold. She's been amazing for Ramjo. I think she's done a brilliant job. So congratulations to all the above. If there's no further comments here, councillors, I'll put it. All in favour? Again, carried. Thank you.
7.10, Mr Mayor, is a report coming back. Previously, Council considered a donation towards the Fight Cancer Foundation's Hilltop Accommodation Centre in Albury, Stage 2. So that included an address by Alice Glashan as her role as an ambassador for that group, and of course, an Albury councillor, former mayor. So the council's had donation going back a little while, and they've had this letter, and really not only seeking funding, as Alice has said as well, seeking support to help engage right across our area, because unfortunately all of us get touched in some ways or another by this this thing. So making sure that we can formalise the initial support of council was towards an allocation of 15,000 in our 2021 budget, which we're seeking to adopt today. So just to make sure that council were comfortable that would be included in that.
Moved by councillor Kendi, seconded by councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Kendi.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Been formerly, family's been involved with the cancer centre, which is mate, it's a great setup up there, and it's I couldn't endorse this anymore, because the region that been in, like from Mulwala, Yarrawonga, all our shire, it's money well spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor Kendi. I'd have to say, councillor Kendi, it was only a week ago when I walked into that centre and felt so proud that the Federation Council has contributed to it. It's magnificent. Any further comments there, councillors? Councillor Longley.
Yeah, I certainly endorse this project, having been touched by cancer. When people are on chemo, and as Councillor Kennedy would understand, the after effects are absolutely horrendous. That you can't believe just how shocking they are. And if somebody has accommodation there instead of being remotely at home, it saves a lot of that trauma. And I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you, councillor Longley. Any further comments there, councillors? If not, I shall put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
7.11, last report, is just a broad update report on council's response to the ongoing pandemic of COVID-19. So it's not an internal report. We've got a really detailed and I think very strong, and it's a credit to the staff and their involvement in the management of our risks, essentially, through COVID. This just a broad update report. Obviously, our big focus the last few weeks or longer has been on the border closures, and then the tightening of those border closures, and continually doing all we can to support our community businesses. Example of the Cora Medical Centre, and not being able to have doctors across into Rutherglen if they're New South Wales and they come back and have to, or supposedly have to self-isolate. So there's some real issues, and again, through our engagement team, our comms, there's been some really strong submission feedback, and I think community businesses down Mulwala, wherever you want to look, massively impacted, and they've done some strong submissions themselves, but also channeling it through our processes so we can forward that directly through to the cross-border and up into government as well. And then looking to the recommendations, seeking that we continue to develop our broader overall response plan. There's a number of, obviously, a thing of a worldwide scale, so it's just making sure we can continue to capture and wrap up where our efforts are, and not duplicating, and working with state, federal agencies more broadly. So if there's any other questions or comments, happy to take them on our response and suggestions going forward. More than happy to also.
Can I have a mover, please, councillors? Moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Wales. Any questions or comments there, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
Really, after the announcement of those border closures, and then when the further restrictions were absolutely brought upon us, our communities were absolutely confused and confronted, and they absolutely needed an avenue to vent, for a better word. With the development of the link that Federation Council has developed through the community engagement team, I mean, this absolutely gave a concrete avenue for those comments to be collected, and therefore advocate on the behalf of our communities with our very regular updates from our state and federal and cross-border authorities. And I just really want to commend Council for pulling all that together under duress circumstances, because this unprecedented situation has created so much chaos. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Thomas, I think over this time it happened very quickly. The government's acted really quickly, and then within days we saw the reasons why, because the spike was enormous and has been since that day. But there has been a massive amount of work done from Federation Council, including our general manager on a teleconference every morning at usually about 9:30 to our cross-border commissioner, James McTavish, and health, and Justin Clancy. So there's been daily input on our needs and wants and desires to get around the situation to try and make it less painful as possible for all our communities. And only just yesterday morning, I think our general manager was lobbying even on behalf of our doctors here for Rutherglen. So it's been a very general thing, but a lot of work's gone into it that we don't see at times, but I certainly know that there's massive input. So thanks for your comments on that one. Any further comments, councillors? Councillor Longmire, I'll take that. And
can I also endorse the work that council have done, and as you described, the opportunity for our general manager to be leading the team to appropriate things on a daily basis. So that's very commendable.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. Councillor Longley.
Yes, I note in a comment about community support where mention only Corowa and the community supporting the police here. On the community support the police there, firewood, fire buckets, the cafes and so forth are providing meals, smokos, coffees, as well as the community. So it's been a widespread known, and I'm assuming that would be the same in Mowal. Just making a comment that wasn't only Corowa.
That's right, and it's been amazing the communities, the input to the police, and I think they, at a time like this, they need it because they've come from all over Australia to man these borders. So it's been a big job. I see Councillor Wales has a question there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm just in relation to this COVID-19, where businesses are doing it very hard. Then I just wonder why this little pop-up boost came into town yesterday when our businesses are going pretty sad. Anyway, just a question.
I'm sorry, I just missed the end of that. A pop-up booth came into town.
No, a boost came into town yesterday, a drink boost. I don't know where it came from, what the score was, but when our business is going pretty bad, and this other one comes to town, so I just wonder what the go was, that's all.
Okay.
We'll take that up.
We'll take that, yeah. Review that. Thanks, Councillor Wales. Any further questions or comments there, councillors? Now, we'll now move on to,
Did you want to do
thank
your
you.
point? Did you want to do your half?
Thank you, yeah. So council, would you move to suspend standing orders? Thank you, Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. All in favour?
Aye.
Against?